Good evening and happy Sunday, I suppose. Good to see you all again in the Sunday pub. As I say at the beginning of every Sunday pub, just in case someone is here for the first time, this is basically a book nerdery hangout stream where we talk about books, but also many other things. I invite different people every week. Sometimes one or two people show up, sometimes 8, I think is the most we've ever had on screen at once. And we just chat and hang out. And we also have reading sprints where, strangely, we all read while connected to the internet. And you can actually watch me read. Why anyone would want to do that, I do not know. This week, we have the very best author of Man Punches Spaceship books in the known universe. That's right, it's Joe Byrne.
Howdy.
Good to see you, Joe.
Good to see you.
Glad you're keen to be on the pub. Normally, I kind of randomize my invites. Like, there are a whole bunch of people that I kind of have in my chat, and I just go through it, and I'm like, I haven't invited them this week, or last week, or whatever. And then Joe invited himself this week, which is totally cool. Which is absolutely cool. I have no.
You invited me last week, and I was in final edits, so I was like, I really can't. I was in chat for 20 minutes, but that was all I could afford.
Yeah,
but,
congratulations.
It's
Joe
good.
told me in the chat beforehand that he sent off the latest book to the book 6, 7. Okay,
7.
Cool. This is another hybrid helix book, right?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
So hopefully coming out by the end of June.
We also have my co-host on the Fireside Discord, Red Fury Josh.
Hey guys.
Good to see you.
I'm good.
Good to see you.
Yeah, Josh had a really good idea day before.
Thank you, Peter.
Kind of ripping off, I guess, the Quilluminati, but still a good idea that we are starting a Fireside book club. The idea being that me, Joanna, and Josh host the Fireside together, and Evie is our lovely moderator. The 4 of us will read a book every quarter together and do a live stream at the end of the quarter or after we finish the book at some point. But also, we each nominate a book, and everybody on the Fireside can vote for the nominations, and we will read the one that you vote the highest. So it's a little random and a little not random for us. And
I'm checking now to see who's winning.
Exactly. I think it's still, what was it, Blindsight?
Yeah. Blindsight's running away with it.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Are you each going to try to nominate the book that you know the other 3 want to read the least, or the one they want to read the most? Like, which way are you aiming in this?
I'm super selfish. My nomination is the book I want to read the most. Okay. I don't care if anyone else wants to read it. I want to read it.
Mine's a little bit of both. I will try to pick things from my physical TBR, but also things that I think other people might want to read. So I'm
also partially joking. I know that the one I nominated, and we're not telling anyone who nominated what, so that people aren't voting for their favorite person. They're just voting on the value of the book.
Passing up opportunities to have fights,
Yeah. I'm a moderator on a gaming Discord.
Okay, fair enough.
So I get more than enough Discord fights. I just recently had to ban a racist from our server, and not the Fireside, the other one. And I've had people complain about me as a moderator and all sorts of things. It's a lot of fun. Also, we have a first-time pub guest. who you have probably all seen on numerous things recently, because a bunch of our Corner of Booktube friends have gotten to be friends with David, Four Corners of the Page. Here he is.
Hello, who's this joker?
I only watch David for his accent. I don't really listen to what he says, but I like the accent.
And David's like, you have the accent.
Yeah, I'm not really that interested in people that look like you. Just my thing.
Thanks for having me on. I think there might be a wee delay on my end because I'm battling a perennial one bar situation here in Kuwait. But delighted to be here.
I've been the whole time since I bumped into you on one of the streams with Joanna or whatever it was. I've been wanting to ask, what is a Scot doing in Kuwait?
So I'm an English teacher. So I was in Japan for 6 years. Left Japan, went back to Scotland, realized I didn't want to be in Scotland, and then went over to the Middle East for 2 years. But I'm actually moving in about 2 weeks, man. Like, this is really the...
I saw you say that in one of your videos. You're going back to Scotland for a bit, and then you're going back to Japan, or?
So the plan is, if the visa gets its act together, I'll be in Japan from the early July, just as it gets really hot. It's like 100% humidity in Tokyo. So I thought, just as I'm beginning my BookTube journey, why not move to the most impossible time zone on the face of the earth,
And so why not be sweaty in every video you make?
So when you're done with them, do you get a bunch of like Arab people who speak English with a thick Scottish accent? Like, is that product that you're creating?
I hope so.
That sounds fantastic.
I mean, that's why I do it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
What were you guys talking about before I jumped in? Something about book recommendations for other people? I kind of missed the tail end.
It's the you just joined the Fireside Discord, right?
Yeah.
So Joanna and Josh and I are the hosts of the Discord, and Evie, who you may have bumped into somewhere, is our lovely moderator, and we're doing a Fireside book club. So the four of us will read a book voted on by the people in the Fireside, but we nominate, each of us nominates one book. So there'll be there are four nominations. Everybody on the Fireside who wants to can vote. And whatever gets the most votes, the four of us will read together, and then we'll do a stream, and everybody is invited to read along.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Is it generally quite successful? What kind of reads have come up that you've enjoyed?
We just started it. This is the first, when we start reading in July 1st, we'll start the first book. That will be the beginning of it. So don't know.
What are the book nominations so far? Do we know?
The nominations so far are...
I got it right.
Remember. Yeah. You go, Joe.
We got Blind Sight by Peter Watts, When We Were Orphans by Kazuo Ishiguro, The Antidote by Karen Russell, and Mountain in the Sea by Ray Naylor.
Ishiguro's wonderful.
Ishiguro is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm doing a Tori, my good friend Tori from Tori Talks. She sent me a Ishiguro book. Name of which I'm blanking on right now. They made a movie out of it.
Never Let Me Go.
Yeah, Never Let Me Go. Not Remember the Day, but Never Let Me Go. So I read that and I was like, Ishiguro is totally my jam. And I bought everything he's ever written because I wanted to have matching cover.
Yep.
They have these nice editions.
I approve of that.
Yeah. Nice color. And they look gorgeous on shelf, and they're nice format. I bought all of them, and then I started reading in publication order, since they're not connected. Like he doesn't write series, at least not so far. And I've read Artist of the Floating World and A Pale View of Hills. The other order, Pale View of Hills first, and Remains of the Day recently, and Colton. I guess I gave it away. Yeah, I may have chosen the Ishiguro book on the
I've heard Ishiguro say, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm going to anyway. I've heard him say that he actually thinks it's quite a positive book, Never Let Me Go. That he thinks it's a wonderful encapsulation, without going into spoilers, of life. He just wants it to be like life crystallized into again, don't want to go into spoilers. But that book gave me a deep existential crisis. So I firmly disagree with him.
I think he was drunk when he said that.
Probably.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard him speak a couple of times, like videos and stuff, and he seems to be an extremely philosophical dude. Not surprising if you read his books, but I'd have to say he failed if he was going for just an encapsulation of life that wasn't really extremely depressing.
You telling me you weren't sunshine and rainbows after finishing that book?
Not so much.
Well,
No. It's a
every
great book. I
pessimist
mean,
thinks,
I
thinks
loved
they're
it.
a realist.
Right,
Every pessimist thinks they're a realist. Every depressed person thinks they're, just seeing the world accurately,
Yes.
and those happy people are just idiots.
maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Blindsight is winning right now.
I like the chat trying to guess who picked which book.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of gave it away, gushing about Ishiguro so much just now.
Hey, but Joanna and I have both read Ishiguro as well, so it could be us.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I would guess Evie has too. So
actually, I don't remember if Evie's read any Ishiguro already, but anyway, let me scroll back a little bit, and as I always do, say hi to everybody. Thornall is here every week, which is awesome. Peter, good to see you, man. Morton, Denmark in the house. Ida's here. Book Lounge is here. Is everybody having a great Sunday? It's a good question. Osa is here. Good to see you, Osa. Colton, of course, is here, as always. Jerome is here, as always. Jerome trying to get a little poetic there. Good try, Jerome. Well done.
better
Terry.
than I could.
Yeah, no, I suck at rhyming. So yeah, there's my career as a rapper down the drain. Larry, good to see K2.
The one thing stopping you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was like this close until I realized I couldn't rhyme. Raph, haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, it has been a month. It's been a few pubs since Raph was in the chat. Aslan, good to see you, man. Raph approves of whoever nominated Blindsight. Aslan apparently also. Oh, look, it's Daniel. Daniel is my second oldest gaming friend. It's funny, like in this modern age of internet and console gaming and stuff, I know more about what's going on in Daniel's life day to day than I do many of my like real world friends, because we'll have like a week like this week where we are playing something every night together, and he's like, oh, wait a sec, my cat's doing this, or my wife wants something, or we just had this happen. You talk. And it's funny how, and I've never, but Daniel is a connection through a guy I do actually know in the real world, but I've never met Daniel. I've only heard him on the headphones, which is, yeah, it's a funny experience. Speaking of funny experiences,
Terry, hi.
Oh, Terry.
Good morning, handsome fellows. How are you all?
just trying. I didn't mean anything by it, Derry. I was just trying to connect.
That was a good segue.
Yeah, you're very quiet, Derry.
Oh, okay.
Your mic.
I replaced my microphone because the cable for my Yeti was making everything tick.
Oh,
Is that any better?
yeah. Well, I think it's a bit better because you leaned forward. I think you're just closer to the mic now.
I can do that.
Yeah, very good. Good to see you, Derry. How you doing?
It's cold. It's officially winter now in New Zealand, and somehow the weather got the memo. And this morning I went, ugh. And then I thought, actually, I love winter.
Wellington's not exactly famous for awesome weather, so
Except that when it is, you cannot beat it.
yeah, those 10 days are great, but
They're S tier days. Those days.
Wellington is basically the Southern Hemisphere's Ireland, or New Zealand is the Southern Hemisphere's Ireland. It's like
Maybe.
a hell of a lot of rainy, and when it's really nice, it's really, really nice. But yeah,
it's just very, where I am, I'm very exposed on the side of the hill. And I didn't realise that when the wind wasn't the usual northerly, it would just whip across my windows and just feel all of the heat out of my.
awesome. Also,
Derry, I was just thinking, Derry, that I was saying I'm going to be alone in my time zone, but you and we're going to be united together in the farthest flung time zone on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
So it's you and me.
Yep.
you can also, David, you can also get up at 6 a.m. to join the pub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a good time to miss the pub.
Yeah,
It is actually always the best start to my week. So.
perfect.
So
Also,
how-
I totally agree with you. When I saw that someone, not me, nominated The Mountain and the Sea for the Fireside Book Club, I was like, "Ooh, I actually hope that wins because it's got such a gorgeous cover. At least the UK cover is awesome. It's like this giant octopus coming up out of the ocean, and it's a lovely illustration. Very, very nicely done. Hello, Brady. Good to see you, man. Robin, good to see you.
Oh no, somebody lost a pet.
Yeah, Terry in the chat. Yeah,
What
There
happened?
is nothing more
lost a
horrible.
pet. Lost a pet this week.
Sorry, Terry.
Oh, I missed that.
Sending
Yeah.
hope through the ether, because that's awful.
Sorry to hear it, Terry. I don't even like to think about it. Hopefully, I've got many years of Fitz ahead of me.
That's
For anyone who hasn't been here before, Fitz is my extremely large Maine Coon cat.
she's so pretty.
She is very pretty. That's true. She's sleeping. Yeah. She'll visit later, I'm sure.
Oh, look, it will be her dinner time. So, Joe, what about you? Have you got pets, Joe?
Me?
Yeah.
No. So I don't, partially because I don't really have a single place where I live, but I have grand dogs. So my stepdaughter, my wife, grand dogs, my stepdaughter, my wife's daughter, who's lovely, raises seeing eye dogs like puppies. So she went to school to study animal
So
science.
aren't they step grand dogs?
Yeah, but you don't have. I mean, come on. English is a flexible language. You don't have to always put the everything in there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
But we think of them as our grand dogs, and it's for my wife. It is grand, So she gets a new lab or golden retriever every year, 15 months.
Oh,
They're adorable. They're loving. There are downsides, right? Because she has to train them in a very specific way because they have to be seeing. They can't sleep in her bed, right? You have to be very restrictive because you don't know if the person they're going to be with may not be okay with the dog in their bed, right? So you can't say, well, you can't have this dog because it wants to sleep in your bed. That's not going to work. So you've got to be very restrictive. And then she raises the dogs and she keeps hoping they fail. Because if the dog fails, because it's very restricted tests. Like if they have an allergy to food, they fail. They can't be seeing eye dogs because
Yeah.
If you think about it, it makes sense. So but she's a very good trainer, so they never fail. So because if they fail, you get first dibs on adopting them.
Speaking of never failing,
It's
it's Philip Chase.
Hey, that was a good
Wow.
segue there, Matt. That
was
was
a good segue.
well done.
He was sitting there for a minute or two. I was waiting for something to come up where I could hook him
But
in.
do his students fail because he's giving out grades right around now, or just did?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
Couple weeks ago, sorry.
I have failed many times. The trick is to fail better, to keep failing
Yeah.
better.
It's Dr. Bronchitis, everyone. Speaking
Yeah.
of failing, he failed to join the pub last week because he was sick. How are you?
I
How are you
actually
doing?
fell asleep. Sorry.
Yeah, he said, I've got bronchitis. I'm doing a bit better, but
Oof.
I'll stop by and I'll join. And I was like, well, if you've got bronchitis, maybe you don't need to. And sure enough, he fell asleep.
Yeah.
But
Because
you were in
when
the
you have
side
bronchitis-
today, Philip.
Sorry,
I
Derry,
saw
what'd you say?
this round table, and it took a minute for my brain to go, who is that man? He looks really familiar. And it was lack of tweed.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm appropriately attired. It's much cooler today, so
The one piece expert.
Speaking of failing as well, I was really surprised to hear, Philip, that you're bouncing off Dandelion Dynasty. Having not touched it myself, I've heard that it's beloved.
A lot of people love it. A lot of people that I respect immensely love the Dandelion Dynasty, and I wish I did too. But it was not my favorite reading experience, and it's just a lot. And look,
Why?
Okay, I'll try to explain. It's there's some good storytelling. Okay. No, I don't hate Ken Liu.
He seems like such a nice guy. Like Philip seems like a nice guy. Ken Liu seems like a nice guy. But every
Actually,
time you
he
get the
seems-
two of them in a room together,
Ken
Stirring
Liu
up
seems
trouble.
like,
just a brilliant guy, to be honest with you.
oh,
And
it's amazing listening to him talk.
I expected I was going to love these books, but my issue, and I'm going to do this without spoiling anything, is that his style of writing is such that there's a lot of interruption of the story. There's a lot of momentum that gets interrupted a lot of the time. And I think most people, even people who would love the series, would admit that it's a slow pace, and a lot of that is because there's a lot of telling in there. There's a lot of telling, like after a scene happens, it'll just kind of like explain in almost like folktale fashion. And this is why from there on they all got along better. And da 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 da, and it's like, wait, I knew that. You didn't have to tell me that, but there are definitely readers who appreciate that kind of telling, and that's fine. You know, I'm not one of them.
Isn't it also kind? I haven't read them yet. I've got them definitely on my list, but isn't it also in sort of a mythological mode?
It is. It is. There there are gods, and they do they have more observe than interfere, but they do sometimes do a little tweaking here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are gods. My main issue is just the constant interruptions. A lot of it was engineering focused. Yeah, sorry about the flamethrower.
Can you please explain Isamwise's comment?
That made me laugh
rest of us?
so much, that part of your video, Philip.
So
I missed that one.
I'm not actually making this up, and I apologize if anyone considers this a spoiler, but the story is constantly interrupted, especially in Wall of Storms, but also in Grace of Kings, by these inventions, these gadgets, these doodads, these contraptions. That because the focus it's silk punk or steampunk or whatever, and there are a lot of these really cool. A lot of the story rests on these MacGyver moments when you have this like engineering breakthrough where the character invents this cool machine that can help them win the battle and blah blah blah, which is cool. And I don't mind that trope, you know, a couple times here and there, but it's constant. And what happens is every time it's where they wheel out the new contraption and then stop. Okay, the battle stops, everything stops. And it's like, and here's how it works. Here's a poop flamethrower, and you have to ferment the poop for this many weeks, and then you have the tube that goes here, and then there's this ignition thing, and they figured out, and it goes on for pages. And then it tells you the moment like 5 months before the battle when the character had this epiphany that, oh, you can ferment poop and make a flamethrower out of it, you know? And you'll get like a 3 or 4 page, 5 page of here's the moment when they thought of the poop flamethrower, and then back to the battle. And if that happened once or twice, that would be cool. But it's like constant. Again, I guess I almost was
Drive me insane.
Because
speaking of poop flamethrowers,
yeah.
Here's Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Good to see you, Mr.
very
Bell,
good
too.
That was a good segue right there.
That's a good segue.
Yeah, well, it's like
I couldn't have done that better.
I mean, it would be slightly better if it was Rick Thunder joining and not
That's just what I was thinking.
just Brian. You know,
He's expensive, Matt. I don't know. I don't know what the Euros.
I have
trading at
zero
is.
budget for my channel. I spend it all on lights and microphones.
He would have a half-built poop flamethrower in his backyard.
I'm here to push the merch. I'm pushing merch. That's what I'm
You're
doing.
always pushing merch.
Nice.
You are
I like
pushing merch. That is who you are.
Yes. Yes.
How you doing, man?
Hold on. I saw the big party. I wanted to join. So
Please,
Hey, cool.
please.
Hello, everybody.
Glad to see you. It's nice to know my invites are not wasted.
Not at all. Not at all.
No, and it's like I heard that there was this Illuminati knockoff, and then I saw my brethren Philip on, and I was like, well, I need to represent. I mean, this shall not.
Feel free
stand.
to send the link to John if you want. Like I gave up sending him the link. Like I invited him. I don't know how many times.
John doesn't know how to turn his phone
No,
on.
I think it's a
So
joke.
good luck with that.
So
For sure.
I have a question for like, first of all, can you just call anything something punk? You can, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So from now on, I'm calling Philip Dr. Tweed Punk.
Tweed Punk.
And Dr. Tweed Punk, do you have a new book out soon? You don't have a
No.
new book out soon, do you?
I do indeed. I have a new book out. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Wild Darkness Gathers is coming out on June 21st. There's a the ebook pre-order is up if you want the ebook on Amazon. So that's there, and the actual physical book will be available on June 21 from Amazon, and hopefully other places as well, because I do publish through Ingram Spark as well as KBP. So if you're not an Amazon fan, you can order the physical book from other places. Hopefully that works. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning it. Thank you. Yeah.
This is the service that we provide for only a low fee to authors that join the Sunday Pub.
Checks in.
Reach
Which,
the minimum.
yeah.
Hey,
It says
man,
here, the minimum.
I just noticed Jerome's comment that I might sound weird because I'm just using my laptop instead
Sounds
of
all right.
my mic. So if I do, and I need to like go put a mic on or whatever.
Sounds all right. Not a problem, man. Joe,
Okay.
considering you're the other author that's here, you just finished Hybrid Helix #7 and sent it off to your publisher.
Yes, Mo, my publisher's an idiot, but yes.
I hope he doesn't watch
Terrible
the Sunday
taste.
Pub.
And he's bad at financial management, really, and marketing. So yeah, no. Shield of the Mothership was at with my editor. I'm supposed to get a cover this week. So this is my cover story, right? The cover artist sends me a sketch. I'm like, this is what I want. He sends me a sketch. It's not really like what I asked for, but it's gorgeous. I'm like, okay, this is great. Use it. So then he sends me an email. It's like, I decided to go in a different way. Don't worry, you'll love it. That's it. You'll have it next week. I'm like, okay.
I
we'll
already
see.
loved it though.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So it's he does what he's going to do, and it's always gorgeous. So what am I going to say? I can't complain. So hopefully I'll get the cover next week, and then I can start, pushing that, and do a cover reveal and all that nonsense. And I've got a different guy who does the graphic design.
Does it have a poop flamethrower though?
Yeah.
It won't. But I have a kaiju spiked turtle named Megara starring in this book. So
That's better than a poop flamethrower.
and my editor literally sent me from the first round. She's like, I was kind of picturing that he might look something like Gamera, and I'm like, yeah, that's the joke, right?
You apparently got the
Of
joke.
course, you got the joke, right? I'm so glad someone got it, because I just stole it right there. Yeah, I need to change publishers. Good luck. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My
So
dad,
that should come out
who
and
ran his own business for basically his whole life, used to always say to me that if you run your own business, you got an asshole for a boss.
Yes.
Yeah.
I made this sort of same joke about how my publisher always puts me down and calls me fat and stuff in the Science Fiction Writers Association chat in the Discord, because I'm a member, because it's not that hard to become a member anymore, and people were like actually concerned because they don't really know me, and I realized, okay, this is too wide an audience for me to make that joke. They were just like, Joe, maybe you should stand up for yourself. And I'm like, no, it's a joke. I'm so public.
Maybe as Aslan says, you need to change publisher.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, you can talk to Adrian Tchaikovsky. He's got a few.
That's true. Yeah, he can give you a list.
just give me one of them. I only need one. Adrian.
Yeah.
He's just being.
Hey, Matt. Rap's has a good topic for us that would be a nice spicy discussion here. He said earlier in the chat, I feel everyone should have one popular series or book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That might be interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I keep trying to read Anita, and I'm bouncing off it so hard, even though everybody is saying to me, "You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it." I'm like,
Which
"No."
what? What are you bouncing off of? Sorry, I missed the title.
Anita.
Sun Eater. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a rocky time with book 1 with Sun Eater. You know, I've heard book 2 is much better, but book 1 gave me kind of extremely mixed feelings. I was bored for about 40% through book 1.
Book 2 is definitely stronger.
It goes. I think it's very much kind of a hill, the series so far. Like everything is better than book 1, but it gets, I thought, really good at Demon in White, and then a couple of books I was like, yeah, this is awesome, and then it went down a little bit after that. Like the latest book, I was kind of like, yeah, it's good, but but yeah, it goes up from book 1 for sure. No question. Can your kaiju turtle vomit reality or support elephants with extra?
It is a valid question.
Not disclosed in this book, so he has abilities we'll see in the future. But so far, no
Okay.
vomiting of reality.
Secret abilities to be revealed at a future.
Yeah, I heard
date.
Anita the first time.
Yeah, I did too.
I'm like, Derry's reading Anita Blake? Like, that doesn't seem like your jam, but go for it.
I'm with you, Samwise. That would probably be the most popular series that I have zero interest in reading.
I have to
Have you
admit,
tried it? Have you tried it, Matt?
I DNF'd book 1 in the middle.
Okay.
I was like, if I want Lord of the Rings, I'll read Lord of the Rings again.
Fair.
If I want badly written characters, I'll read lots of different things. But yeah.
I'll push back at that, because I think Jordan's character development throughout the series is pretty great. I think there's a lot of things you can pinpoint at Wheel of Time that could have been done better. It's bloated, he's repetitive, all of that. But I think the overall character arcs, I think he did very well in that series.
I would agree with the character arcs. Yeah.
And I've heard it's a weird thing. I mean, I've said it on the pub before, probably multiple times. I probably would have tried Wheel of Time again and stuck with it, because I do understand it gets better, that the first book is basically a Tolkien ripoff, and it gets well beyond that.
It does, yeah.
But I've talked to too many Wheel of Time fans who tell me like 4 books in a row starting at book 7 are really boring, and it really gets good around book 4, and like everybody says these things over and over again. I'm like, I don't have time to wait 3 books for something to get good.
You got to do what Kyle did. He skipped like 5 of the books in the middle and just like jumped to book 11. I think he read book 6 and then he just went to book 11.
He did.
Sure.
And
I
it was glorious.
just read a couple of summaries and skip the slog. That actually makes sense to me.
I'm not the hugest fan of Wheel of Time, but I actually did not notice the slog, if I'm being honest. And I had not heard of it before, because I read it before I knew about BookTube. I did not notice any slog. It seemed like, to me, a lot of the books could have been edited to be shorter. There could have been a lot of material left out. Maybe even some of the plot lines just could have been removed. But
Just like Sanderson.
I never felt like there was a section in there that was especially sloggy, as opposed to the rest.
Okay.
And I do agree with Josh about the character arcs are pretty, actually, that's one of the strengths of the series. That there's really quite a journey for the characters. But yeah, it's beloved by many and not universally loved, though, I guess.
Ida, you are absolutely correct. The first law is garbage, and all of BookTube is just fucking with you specifically. We're only doing this for you.
Yeah, we all got a memo, just to be sure.
Yeah.
The whole series is a slog.
David, four corners of the page, just wrote me and said that apparently Chris Rocchio heard him talking smack about him and has hacked his router and crashed his internet. So
I see.
he may be back, but it's Chris Rocchio's fault, apparently.
Obviously. I've listened to some of the people talk about Wheel of Time, and I'm like, if you love this that much, and there is this thing called the slog, defend it. And they don't. They're like, yeah, it exists, it's a thing. And I'm like, the one piece of Realm of the Elderlings that people go, oh, that's not great. I'm going to stand here and defend that. every time somebody moans about it, because I don't think that's the case.
I just finished it, and I will die on that hill with you.
Yeah.
Rainwild Chronicles is awesome. It's not
amazing.
as good
It's
as
great.
other parts of the Realm of the Elderlings, but it is awesome.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
if you can't defend something that everybody thinks is rubbish in a series that you're trying to sell people, you're failing.
And I agree with Jerome. We should all have a class action lawsuit against Christopher Rocchio because he's written 7 books and 0 sons have been eaten.
Yeah.
Nobody has
It's
eaten
in
a
book
son.
7. It's in book 7. We'll get there.
I was just going to say on the Wheel of Time, I'm kind of on the Philip camp where I really didn't notice the slog, except for I can say that Crossroads of Twilight was an objectively terrible book. Like, I thought that book was just awful. The other 3 that get roped into the slog, I found things about them that I liked. There was enough of it, but I did think that the books were bloated. But it's a really hard series to recommend to somebody when it's 4.5 million words.
Yeah.
Particularly because the first book and the second book are so different from each other, and then it sort of kind of peaks around books 4-ish or so when they're not small. So somebody's got to really make a commitment if they want to do it, and it's a tough series. I think.
What's your take
I read
on
the first
Rain
book.
Wilds? Sorry, I was going to ask Brian what his take on Rain Wilds is, because I know you're a huge Realm of the Elderlings fan.
Yeah, I liked it. It's just, again, by comparison, that's the challenge. Like, if they were just books that I read as a quartet and they weren't really connected to the other books, or, if it was by another author altogether, I think I would have probably held it in higher regard. But Realm of the Elderlings has such a high bar set. For me,
it's like saying one of the Malazan books isn't that good. It's like, well, it isn't that good compared to the other 9 Malazan books.
But that's where I'm at with Rainwild. Yeah. Like, I thought that the first couple of books could have been one book. I think it could have been a trilogy.
Designed as a duology.
You guys are giving me so much hope because I've just finished Tawny Man, and I have some trepidation going in. And Derry, I know we've talked about this.
Yeah, you have
I still feel the fear. I
just finished a reread of Rainwilds, and I read it like the first time I read it, I don't know, 15 years ago. So I'd forgotten most of it. And I also had heard so many people go, Rainwild Chronicles, maybe you should skip it and that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm definitely not skipping it because you're an idiot. So I'm going to read it. But I was a little unsure. And then I got into it and I was like, it's Robin Hobb. Of course it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's maybe not as good as Tawny Man.
But how many things
it's not as good as Live Ships, but it's
how many
really
things are
good.
I like what Derry said to me about it being the victim of. Derry, I like what you said to me about it being the victim of maybe some young adult marketing.
Bad marketing,
Well, the marketing has hurt it so badly.
Yeah. Marketing.
I think a lot of it.
YA book is absolutely insane. Yes, it has some teenage characters.
Yeah, and people then go in looking for YA tropes and find them, except they're not YA tropes. You aren't noticing the adult tropes because you're YA.
That's what I always hate when someone complains about YA tropes and love triangles. Because I think about didn't that start with King Arthur? I mean,
there are plenty of adult love triangles.
Yeah,
YA did not invent 3 people screwing each other up.
And yet, it's nothing to do with a love triangle. It's in with the themes of. Sorry, I'm on my soapbox, but it's themes around body autonomy, these decisions for yourself and around agency, because the girl in this love triangle doesn't want either of these people, and saying no is a choice.
It's much more about her ability to make a choice freely than it is about any kind of love triangle. That is, and by the way, Derry, it's in the post already. We had a beautifully engraved mahogany Realm of the Elderlings soapbox made specifically for you to stand on.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Because
Yeah.
my old one, it's getting really worn out because I'm on it
Yeah.
all the time.
Exactly. That's what we were thinking. You know, it's time for a replacement. And it's really sturdy and like quite tall, so you can really
jump
tower
up and
over
down on
people
it.
when you're preaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I read Wheel of Time when it came out, and I really loved the first 4, but I was also a high school teacher. I had a lot more time to read. And now I have much less time to read. And what I'd love to see is some kind of graph of people who love Wheel of Time versus people who hate it, and how many hours a day or minutes a day each was dedicating to reading, and see if there's a correlation. Because if you have like 10, 15 minutes and that's all that you have, and you read Wheel of Time, 15 minutes could be, all you're reading is, they traveled from one place to another and there was still forest. And then you've wasted your day, right? Nothing cool has happened for you to go to bed and think about, and right. But then you read like something like Dungeon Crawler Carl, in 15 minutes, something's going to blow up.
It just happened.
Right? Something in a very fun way, something's going to blow up, right? You got something to take with you every 15. But if you can generally read for 2 hours a day, I think you're going to have a different experience. No one's ever going to do this math, right? And do this study for me. But that's what I want.
I could be a case study to contrast your theory, because especially right now, because I'm unemployed, single, childless, living alone, I have a lot of time. The only thing I have to really spend any time on is occasionally looking for a job and keeping my cat from annoying me. And I still, if I look at a series that is how many books, like 38 books long, I listen to the people who are foaming at the mouth fans of that series, and they describe it to me, and I don't get excited. Then I'm like, I have so many other things to read that already, without anyone describing them to me, sound better than what you just described to me. So
I think Joe has a good point, though, because I read Wheel of Time during the pandemic, where I had basically 90 minutes of teaching online a day, and that's all I had, and was kind of locked down and couldn't leave the house. So I was reading, 4 or 5 hours a day. So that explanation certainly works for me, because I really enjoyed it, and I did read it very fast because I had so many hours a day that I could read. Just to
your point, Raph, I actually, while I was reading Realm of the Elderlings, I actually commented on the fireside that everybody says there's a love triangle in this book, but it's actually a mating octagon. Like it's a large group of people who all kind of want to sleep with everybody. So it's definitely not a love triangle. There is no love triangle in Realm of the Elder, or in
But there's also enormous chunks of time where nothing happens, Joe. And a lot of readers.
Your mic is cutting out, Derry. It's not that it's quiet. It's just we got some of that and then it dropped out totally.
Kind of garbled.
I think she was saying nobody should read Realm of the Elderlings.
I'm relatively certain, without having heard even a word of it, that is not what she was saying.
She's going to hit you with the mahogany soapbox.
And exactly. That's why we sent her.
I get to say this. I get to say this because I love the series. So, yeah.
She will throw that mahogany soapbox all the way from New Zealand.
I will. I absolutely will.
Oh, that sounds much better.
Much clearer. Much clearer.
Oh,
Yes,
good. But yeah, so many people who have read the whole series. There is a section in one of the books where literally we're at a cabin and we're getting stories of feeding the chickens, fixing the chicken coop. We're fixing the porch. We're just bumbling around in a cabin. And there's so many readers, myself obviously included. I could stay there for the whole book.
Yeah. Same.
Just doing nothing with this character. It comes down to the author and how good they are at doing nothing. Robin Hobb does nothing like nobody.
I still don't believe myself when I say that there is a section in 20 Man, which is 250 pages, of two people not moving and talking about shit. and it's some of my favorite fantasy writing
I mean,
ever.
they're
I'm like,
raising their teacups.
that can't be true.
And dipping them.
It's
I
not
think they're drinking
possible.
lots of brandy as well, aren't they?
Yeah, there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of brandy
Yeah.
drinking going on. Yeah.
But I think in general, those are sometimes like if an author is really skilled, those can be the best parts of the book. I mean, Name of the Wind is something similar. He just kind of bickers around his university and just kind of enjoys himself. Harry Potter, maybe it's something about magical schools, but I mean, I guess that's where kind of a lot of cozy fantasy maybe came from, is that a lot of people just tend to enjoy sitting there without much happening. It feels, I don't know, enjoyable in a way that we don't traditionally associate with swords and
But
shields and
you
magic.
couldn't
the
have
way-
done it in 20 Man without already having a trilogy about those characters before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
You
that
have,
reflection
like,
and
It's
the natural
getting
segue
back
into
in.
memory.
It's like,
and-
Fitz and the Fool again. Awesome. You guys
Well,
just
it's not
talk. I'm here
stopping
for it.
in
you
the
know?
middle of the battle to tell you how they invented the
Yeah.
big flamethrower. It's a natural flow of thought process. So you're not getting an info dump. You're just going about this guy's day, and the way his day goes gives you so much information because that reminds him of this. So he starts thinking of that, which flows into the next thing, which if it's just beautiful.
This is hilarious. I'm not putting this up because he's complimenting me. I'm putting it up because this is the guy that I play console games with all the time for the last 10 years almost.
Yeah.
He has heard my voice more often than any of you, and it occurs to him now. Like, Daniel, what the fuck, dude? Maybe it's just that this microphone is a lot better than my my headset for the console, but yeah.
And I think
Thank
Jeff
you
Hayes
anyway.
is an argument against AI because
Yes.
oh my goodness.
Yes. It'll happen. I have absolutely no doubt, especially something like that where it's like you just need to get intonation down, and you can have AI in 30
AI
seconds generate 100 different versions of an audiobook, and then you can sample listen and find one where you're like, that pattern I think works best.
I will die before I listen to an AI audiobook.
Absolutely.
I don't want to either. I'm just saying it's going to happen.
Do you know what it reminds me of? There's been news this week about airlines beginning to implement like standing seats and things like that on airplanes.
God,
And
yes.
for me, it feels very similar to me, where they're rolling it out and they're saying, and with AI audiobooks, I think Audible said something like, "No, we're just doing it for the older books that don't have enough traction to get like a narrator to do it. We're just doing it for those books to help them out." And it strikes me as a very slippery slope.
We're just putting the frog in a pot full of water, but
Exactly.
the water's not hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can listen to an AI audiobook while you're standing on a plane.
Yeah.
Hey, we're all sitting here going, it's terrible, it's awful. And I know Raf is in the chat going, without AI
Not so
narrating
bad.
some of these
Yeah.
books, he has no access to them at all. So
Yeah.
there's definitely a place for it. I really don't want to see it take away from well narrated by actual people audiobooks.
Yeah. I keep thinking, I mean, maybe just because I've read a lot of cyberpunk, but I keep thinking that like human created things will become the sort of handcrafted artisanal special things in the future, because so much will be just auto generated by computers that having an actual actor read a book for an audiobook will become a special thing, and they'll then charge us more for that, of course.
This is not what we were told when we were young. We were told robots were going to come for the crap jobs, not the good ones.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. We robot accountants sound good. Robot creatives, not so much.
robot cleaners.
Roombas.
Yeah.
Roombas. Yeah.
Roombas. That was the
I mean, that
dream.
caught on. Yeah.
They should have stopped there.
Raph is right. He says AI is not the problem. Capitalism. It's the way we're using AI.
Yeah.
People are just dumb. That's the problem. Is that we're using AI to replace things that are essential to our humanity. And that nobody seems to care about that. They're just rushing over the cliff. It's like, yay AI.
Yeah.
it's just-
I quite a long time ago talked to Alan about it, and it's a cultural thing that happens in culture. And the minute your artists and your creatives stop having the freedom to do that and instead have to do something else, the culture you're trying to defend stops being a culture, and it's just a behemoth. And it happened to Rome when they sort of clamped down on the people having creative expression and being able to do and say things that didn't agree with the company line. It all kind of started to crumble. You have to have creative things for there to be culture.
yes.
That's what culture is. It's our artists, it's our creatives, it's the people who can think up amazing things. And
It's so good to have Raf back. I've missed having an angry communist in the comments.
It's the soapbox. It's so lovely.
Yeah,
You have to get on it.
yeah. But I totally agree. I mean, like Brian would certainly agree, being a businessman. Like if you give somebody a way to make money easier,
They're going to do it.
they're going to do it.
I mean, as I hear this, I just want to state for the record, in case the AI is listening, I, for one, welcome our AI new overlords, and I'm looking greatly forward to helping them establish whatever footing they need. And if you could give me an algorithm bump in either Amazon or YouTube, in return, that would be a real great partnership. And I'm looking forward to our ventures together.
Somebody had to say that.
I just want points for my positive portrayal of AIs in fiction. I think the AIs owe me one for that, and
Yes.
I'm expecting to get some payback.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Whistleblower's an excellent AI.
When
The name of my first book is the name of an AI is in the title.
when the AIs take over and cancel all the authors, I'm sure you'll be on a very short list of people who are still allowed to self-publish their own books.
You know, from a pedagogical perspective, I know I'm not the only educator in here, but I've noticed in the past 12 months, students have gone from using ChatGPT sometimes to the tab being permanently open on their computers. Like they don't close that tab,
Wow.
which is very concerning. It's always there. It's just like we would have Google up on the side or something like that. It's an ever-present force.
Yeah.
Well,
And the saddest thing there is there are now studies out that are showing us the effects of this. And younger people particularly, but anyone who depends a lot on AI tools to do things that we used to do by ourselves, their ability to think critically is plummeting. And it's really obvious in the
crazy.
classroom. It's actually
crazy.
scary. That
My other channel is a gaming channel, and I basically, so far, I've taken one game, I've become an expert in it, and I've been doing lots of tutorials. So I know this game backwards, in and out. And recently, a young guy came on the Reddit group for this game and said, "Hey, I'm new to the game. I asked ChatGPT for tips, and here it is." And it was a wall, like a meter long wall of text. And I read through the whole thing, and it was like point 1, point 2, and I read through all of it. And I was like, dude, you've got 37 points in your wall of text. I read all of them. One of them was correct.
Yeah, I was going to say that I use ChatGPT to analyze spreadsheets that I download from Amazon every week, and it is wrong more than 90% of the time. And if I was relying on that, I would be like, if it worked for me and I had to report to a board or something like that, I would be fired. It's really good for being able to kind of lay things out analytically sometimes, but you cannot, if you're using these tools and you're just kind of ad hoc taking what it says for granted, you're in real big trouble. And it's something that I've talked to Jimmy Nuts about a lot too, because he is, a coder by trade, and he knows quite a bit about AI. And it is nowhere near as capable as a lot of people think it is right now. Even though there's a lot of,
It's about the equivalent of hiring an idiot teenager to help you with your work.
it is.
It's like it may be helpful to a certain point, but you want to make sure that you check everything they do.
Well,
It's
that's
a
it.
very
I mean, like,
problem. It's a certain thing that, no, I know what I'm doing. That's stupid. And a certain stupidity is scarier than an uncertain intelligence. And
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
what AI is doing.
I legit thought I could rely on this. And I like the idea of uploading spreadsheets every Monday and it remembers data from 3 months ago that I don't have to personally go back and look at. I don't have a data team, a research team
Yeah.
to go back and do that. And you rely on it at least remembering information you gave it 90 days ago. And it just, when it doesn't remember, it makes it up.
Did you see that recently? Matt Keane just said Google straight up invented book editions I was looking for.
Yes.
There was an article recently in a newspaper, and it was published recommending books. All of the authors existed. None of the books existed. Like they were all invented.
And it was like Chicago Tribune. I mean, it was a legitimate newspaper.
Yeah, it wasn't a nobody paper. Yeah,
somebody was disbarred for submitting a legal brief. And what it's called hallucinations in AI, where it just makes it up. And somebody was disbarred by having an AI cite precedent cases that didn't exist.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, there are a number of lawyers right now getting in trouble for chat GPTing precedent and references and stuff.
I don't hate it for like everything. Like, so I'll use chat GPT, like, we've talked about, I'm not going to bring the channel down, but with my mom passing, it's been a really good chat bot to talk about grief with, because it's pretty well sophisticated with machine learning on how to do that. And a therapist isn't always available 24/7. So there are some useful things that I have found with ChatGPT, but when it comes to real work stuff outside of just having a conversation, we're miles away.
Be very, very careful.
Because ChatGPT will sort of give you like an average like response for things. I had a friend who would write, she's a writer. She would ask ChatGPT to do like the next section of her book. So she would get sort of a baseline of this is what not to do when I'm writing this section, because this is the crap baseline, most boring, most average possible way to like describe a garden. So then if she herself wrote something that looked a little bit like it, she'd scrap it and start over. I'm like, okay, you know what? If you're going to use that as your tool for that, I'll allow it.
Yeah,
she wasn't really asking my permission.
Ask the idiot teenager what it thinks, and then avoid doing that. Yeah,
I could get so far in life with my son doing that.
I got to bail here. I have to drive my daughter to the train station now. So I didn't know.
Is that the excuse that ChatGPT suggested?
Yeah.
How do I get out of this?
How do I quickly leave the Sunday pub?
9 3/4, Philip.
But it was lovely to see you all, and I'm probably going to start coughing anyway. So
all right, look after yourself.
Feel better, Philip.
Hey, Philip.
Yeah, rest well. See you, man.
Lovely to see you all. Bye, everybody in the chat.
Good luck with the launch.
Thank you, and you too, Joe.
Oh, don't forget, everybody. Philip's books are on sale starting today for 99 cents. The Holy Dance trilogy each is 99 cents a piece. So for literally less than $3, you get.
Brian doesn't only pimp his own merch. Brian is the equal opportunity pimp.
That's right. That's right. But I mean, come on, you guys. It's less than $1. Give me a break.
It's less than $1. Yeah. It's like almost free. He's giving them away.
See you guys.
See you, Philip.
Yeah,
Professor Doctor. So we've been on for a bit, like an hour. How about a reading sprint?
Sure.
What's everybody reading?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. What is everybody reading?
Some light reading.
You are mirrored. Let me switch that. There you go. Oh yeah, very light reading.
I'm almost done with it too.
Nice.
A wee Pokemon card to keep me right.
A true reader. Anything can be a bookmark.
Yep. Even a piece of pizza. Seeds of War. Silva. Yeah, I've seen that around, but I don't know anything about it. It's good.
I have not.
Go and get my Kindle, but I'm reading Discovery by the Mintons. I'm in.
That's a great one. I am reading The Stress of Her Regard by Tim Powers. And I don't know if it's because I slept poorly last night, but I legitimately fell asleep in the prologue. So, I'm I don't know.
Generally, I mean, I've read a little Tim Powers, and I would generally not describe Tim Powers as a snooze fest. I mean, there are
That's
other
good.
complaints that might make sense, but
It-
generally,
it-
I wouldn't describe him as boring. So I think maybe it was your lack of sleep.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I do, but it's like, oh god.
I haven't read Stress of Her Regard. I have no idea, but I have read, what did I read from him? Anubis Gates and something else. And they weren't boring.
Good, good.
I am reading
Ooh,
The
you gotta
Raven
tell me how
Tower
that
by
is.
Anne Leckie. It was.
Because I love her, but I haven't read that.
Yeah, no, I really liked the Imperial Raj trilogy a lot. Really, really
Huge
interesting,
fan.
big ideas in there, and some awesome writing. And when I did a Sunday Pub special edition where we interviewed Adrian Tchaikovsky, I asked him what was the last awesome book he read, and he said this, and
Nice.
highly recommended it. And I wrote him. I wrote him when I started it. I was like 20 pages in. I was like, dude, I've started Raven Tower that you recommended. It's weird so far. And he just sent me a smiley emoji back. Yes, it's weird. It's really interesting weird though. It took a little while for me to really get to the point where I was looking forward to reading it every day, you know? Because it's doing a lot of really interesting things, and it's clear that it's doing interesting things that need time. So I am giving it that time and trying not to judge it until I really have the full picture. But it feels very mythological. It all takes place in a very small space.
Okay.
Like most of the story takes place in a castle, and there isn't anything outside of that. And it uses second person, which is always weird. And
Is it Raven Tower, the castle?
the Raven Tower is part of the castle. Yeah.
Okay.
And there are two perspectives in it, and one of them is second person, and one of them is a god.
Okay.
And the god's perspective kind of goes back to the creation of the universe, kind of thing. It's really doing some interesting things. I'm enjoying it, and I'm in the last 20% of it, 15 maybe. And it's all sorts of things are kind of coming together. It's getting
Nice.
a lot more interesting. It's
Well,
cool.
I'm going to make a cup of tea, so I'm going to hit mute and
Do it.
sprint away.
All right. So we'll
Yeah,
go
I'm-
for Huff.
And I'm going to pop off, but I may pop back on. If I'm not on video, I'll be in chat.
Cool, man. Good to see you.
Man,
Good evening, man.
Awesome. Awesome to see everybody, for sure. Cool.
All right. So we will sprint until past. Everybody on screen, please remember to mute your microphone. And everybody everywhere, enjoy your reading.
You don't want me to cough loudly into the sprint, do you?
I was actually hoping that one of your kids would wake up and start screaming.
Don't wish for that. It's going to happen.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Was it just me, or was that a really quick half an hour?
It really was. I knocked
It
out
was quick.
one chapter, but I made some more coffee.
Coffee? Nice. I can't drink coffee now. It's 9:30 in the evening here, and I'm caffeine sensitive. I discovered at some point that if I drink anything with caffeine after about 5 in the afternoon, I will be awake at 3 in the morning staring at the ceiling in bed.
No, I'm the same way. I cut off at 3 o'clock, so I have 29 minutes to finish this.
I've only just started experimenting on when I have to stop my caffeine intake, but it's early in the morning, so I'm fine. So I've had 2 cups of tea, and I shall be almost alive.
You're right, Colton. We will never know what Pokemon card David was using as a bookmark. He had to go.
Yeah.
Um,
It was lovely to see him here, actually.
Yeah, really, really nice guy. I mean, I found him extremely sympathetic as a dude when I saw him on other people's streams and such. So when he joined the Fireside a couple of days ago, I immediately was like, that's him. He's on Discord. I can write him.
Yeah.
And he said he couldn't come, and then his schedule cleared up. So, and I'm sure he'll be back. Nice to have him here. Hello, Britain. What did God have to say?
Britton, have you read The Given Day? I'm trying to remember who's left, because we're going to do that chat. I think
Have
Carlos
you read
is the last
Given
one
Day?
left. Yeah, I think he's read it.
No. Yeah, my book is. I'd say it takes a while to get going. It's got a bit at the beginning where kind of everything is kind of a mystery. There's all sorts of kind of weird things going on multiple levels, like God shit, but also there's kind of a human mystery, and the world is a little bit weird, and you're trying to figure it out. And that was quite engaging. The middle of it felt a little bit, maybe a bit boring, a bit slow. But then once all of these things that have been built up start coming together, it's getting much more exciting. It's also a lot of really interesting stuff. And she did this in the Imperial Raj trilogy as well, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, is sci-fi. And the main character is a distributed intelligence in many different bodies. And in this book and that book, those as well, she does a lot of really interesting stuff with language.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this one, language, I won't go into details, but language is kind of the structure of the god's power. And gender as well. There's some weird gender stuff in here where I was like, what? Okay.
That's on brand.
Yeah, totally on brand. Interesting stuff. I like getting about halfway through it. I'm like, I totally understand why Adrian Tchaikovsky loved this book. Alien weird god perspectives and weird language shit and weird magic, and yeah, very cool. Mitch is tired of books. Well, Mitch, this is a book nerdery hangout stream, so are you inviting me to kick you?
Hey, we had her Dr. Professor Chase on.
Exactly.
We have to accept One Piece readers.
Dr. Tweed Punk.
The
As
best
I
is
will
the
forever
glass,
call
like the booktubers box. It's like a glass case, and it says, "In case of slow growth, break glass." And there's a One Piece Volume 1 is inside the box.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I
accurate.
love that.
Yeah. I was thinking of starting a series called UX Designer Reads One Piece, but I don't think it would have the same resonance as
No, possibly not.
English professor.
I hit 170 subscribers on my channel. I'm very excited.
Woohoo!
I know,
Nice.
right?
I'm happy
Yep.
with one.
And
Not
my mom
is
is only like
always
160 of them.
Your mom's out there creating all sorts of sock puppet accounts for you.
Yeah. Someone's got to. My
Yeah,
wife
well,
will do it.
that's what moms are for, isn't it?
She's retired. She has time.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Marianne. Good to see
Reading
ya.
class.
Marianne.
And Pete's reading Night Watch. Nice.
I need to get to that.
Night Watch is making Pete think.
Yeah.
Also getting mad about modern day.
Is that good or bad?
Are you thinking good or bad
Thinking
things?
the way he likes you to think is always worth it.
It's interesting you mentioned just talks of gender in there, because literally the last two books that I've read, the one I'm reading now and the one right before it, both have some exploration in that regard. Never Flinch with Stephen King has a character that, let's just say there's a character, because I don't want to give it away, but GGK has a very modern type of character in the story. And I thought the exploration of the character, which is almost a modern, like, political type of, I'm trying to be vague, like a modern, like, political thing that is discussed today. It was so, of course it's K, so it was just so maturely handled and nuanced, and it was just so well done. And it's interesting because certain people could probably point to that and use it as kind of a beacon for that certain political topic as a way that it's done sensitively and beautifully. So it's interesting that book has that, because the last two books have definitely had characters for me that were just definitely made you think about that.
I love that it's becoming less unusual for authors to include gender issues in their books.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
But I think a lot of times it seems like when I read them, it almost seems like that, like a character, let's just say that a character's gay or something like that. It just almost seems like some authors just put it there to check something off the
Because
list.
you should have a gay character.
You know, just to kind of throw in some sort of representation. But
Yeah.
I found at least in Kay's instance that the characters that you see, because he's had, because it's historically informed, he's had gay characters all the time, but they were always an integral part of their character. So it just felt organic to the storytelling, not like, oh, I need to put this in here to check something off the list.
The stuff Anne Leckie is doing, I mean, also the stuff she does in Imperial Raj, it's so fundamental to the character. It's so fundamental to what's going on. It's like totally not a tokenism kind of thing. Yeah. It's like there are deep themes in her books that she explores all over the place that are about that kind of thing. The weird thing about this one, there's a character, and I need to do a skim and go back if the character is ever referred to in a gendered way.
Okay.
But there's this point where kind of a discussion comes up about their gender, and I was like, okay. And then it moves on.
Nice.
And you're like, but why was that? At the moment, like I said before, I haven't finished it. I'm giving it space to read, because she does do complex things in her books. Like she's building large, complicated Gothic cathedrals of themes, and I'm giving her space to do that. But if nothing else comes up, I'm going to be very what the fuck at the end of the book. Because it wasn't... There was no point in the whole book where I thought at all about that. And then there was this one bit where there was like 2 or 3 pages where it sort of comes up and someone says something and it's like, well, and it's never explored more or clearly anything, and then it moves on. I'm like, okay.
I seriously had a conversation with my niece few years ago now about one of her friends, and her mum was in the conversation, and her mum said to her, "Are they a boy or a girl?" And I adore my niece's response, because she went, "Who cares? It doesn't matter." And I was like, oh, I love that. That's the default now.
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
totally.
I just-
I mean, I'm totally on board with that. I totally agree with you. But
to
if
have
you
that
if you
kind of
put
explored in
if you put a
any kind of
scene
way.
if you put a scene in a book where something is discussed that hasn't been discussed at all in 300 pages and isn't discussed in the 200 pages after that, then I'm like, what was that? And I honestly feel like I missed something. And she is doing a lot of subtle things in her books. And I'm not a very subtle person. So there is a very good chance that I did miss something and that I need to like skim over it again and look closer at some things. Maybe there was something that was like, "Hey, Matt, look at this," and I didn't get it, and then it came up in a conversation, and I was like, "Where did this come from?" You know, I trust her enough for that, because I've read other books by her, and they're quite brilliant. But so far, the gender thing is kind of there, but I'm like, I don't know why yet. It seems weirdly out of place. Yeah.
But I do
Anyway.
want to say, Mitch, Sorcery isn't so much a bad book. It's just not as amazing as Discworld becomes. So I'm always here for people who read Sorcery and go, "This is great. What is everyone talking about?"
Yeah.
Fabulous. Enjoy it. Do your thing. When you get to the rest of Discworld, you'll go, "Oh, okay."
See, this is why I work really hard not to improve as a writer, right? I don't want anyone to read my series and go, "Yeah, you can read the first few, but man, book 5 is great," you know? So I have to restrain. I drink a lot, you know, I try not to learn, so that it's a nice, even, consistent quality for the whole series. It's hard. You know, you pick up things like, I can't use that because
nobody's going to say Hybrid Helix gets really good at book 4 like they do about Wheel of Time.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Hey, so long as you never have a slog, everything will be fine.
Oh.
No, there doesn't have to be a Y, Pete. If you're directing that at me, I'm not in any way saying that there needs to be a Y. I'm more saying that if you're writing a story, like it's a very conscious choice on every page that something you put on that page is on that page, right? And like having a thing that just sort of shows up is kind of a weird mystery and isn't explored any further or explained in any way. It seems really weird in a story to me.
Yeah.
Chekhov's gun. It's a Chekhov's gun thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, here's a weird thing, which brings, not weird as in abnormal, but just like a thing that hasn't been mentioned at all before. Yeah. And it's kind of mysterious the way it's presented. It's like, wait, what exactly is going on? And then it's gone. And I keep waiting for it to be somehow relevant to the rest of the story, and so far it hasn't been. But I've still got about 100 pages or something to go. So
yeah,
we'll
she might come back to it.
Yeah,
I have a lot of fun doing. They dribble something in early and then hit it again in like the epilogue or something.
Yeah,
and I as a writer, I enjoy doing that, and maybe she's doing that. Like, I mean, I haven't read that book, but
it could also just be that she is doing that kind of what Pete was saying, like queer normative, just sort of throwing in a thing like this, like could be this, could be that.
Yeah, maybe you haven't.
And by the way, it's not a big deal, so let's just move on. Maybe, but I don't know.
It's one for one. I mean, see if this soapbox is getting a lot of use. This was a good investment. Pratchett has some wonderful takes on gender. And he explores it a lot with the dwarves because they don't have a female gender. They exist, but there's no female gender in their speech or behavior patterns. And they explore this in The Fifth Elephant in a way that we don't, in that this is a female character who has been presenting as male her whole life. And wants to be seen as a female in a culture that doesn't have
Female gender. Yeah.
And her experience is really beautifully written, because at the end of it, she goes to a big thing and doesn't wear the in your face, I'm female dress. She goes as she would normally have gone, in masculine wear. And her point was, yeah, but I'm allowed to make the choice now. People know that I'm female and I don't have to wear a dress, but I can if I want to.
Okay, so this is the same character.
Yeah.
I forget her name, but she was in 2 or 3 books previous where she turned up and was
Feet of clay, and she's very slowly starting to show.
and she was kind of transforming herself into visibly female.
Yeah,
which was
like she welded heels
shocking
onto her
everyone.
boots and,
Yeah,
yeah,
and she borrowed lipstick from Angua and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah. Her leather pants have become a very sturdy leather
skirt.
sort of kilt skirt.
Yeah.
So she's I love her. She's marvelous.
Yeah,
And, yeah. Because in that culture, because all of them are male presenting, like they all have beards. Cherry does hers really beautiful.
Cheery, not Cherry, Cheery Littlebottom. That's right.
Yeah, and
great name.
what you then start to see in the series is other male presenting dwarves occasionally sort of quietly going aside to talk to Cherry and ask where she gets her lipstick, things like that. And I just love it that there's this subtle little undercurrent happening in this part of the population of, I'm actually allowed to show that I'm female. I just love it. It's a wonderful way to look at the way a culture presents everything as male as standard.
It's also the main thing. I mean, me being a big role-playing game nerd, when Cheery Longbottom turned up, I was like, Terry Pratchett is having a go at the D&D trope of dwarves all have beards, even the women.
Yeah.
And that was sort of how, I mean, obviously he goes much more deeper, larger directions with it, but I was laughing just because I was like that D&D all dwarves have beards thing. Yeah.
But they also, like, she likes that she has a beard. It's not that, we all have beards and I wish I could get rid of mine. No, it's part of how she makes herself pretty. She does sort of curl it and style it and put bows in it. And if she wants to be fancy, she'll plait it into something intricate. And I just, as an expression of gender politics, Pratchett has done it so beautifully that she's just on her own, doing her own little thing. And in doing so, there's this sort of groundswell among the rest of the dwarves around her going, you mean I could be...
I could also...
I could be out, And it's beautiful to watch in the world of Discworld. Just this thing slowly happening in the background of all the other books. It's beautiful.
He was a crazy good observer of society and social themes, the way he works them in. And like Pete says, you can understand how angry he is and why.
Oh, yeah.
Like some of the books like, I've only read 5 or 4 or something like that, but I think especially in Jingo, I was like, he's really not holding back right now. He's not even sugarcoating the fact that he's pissed off about all of this and it sucks.
Yeah. And it is really obvious that he's angry. And the minute you register in the tone that he's angry, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
It's everywhere in his books that we are doing this wrong, people. This is ridiculous. Look at how ridiculous this is that we do.
Yeah.
And I do love how everyone's talking about things that you can appreciate that happen that require a series. These things like these Elm, right? These things these conversations that happen that wouldn't be worth it except it's in book 4 and you've had your 1,200 or 1,500 pages with these people, or you have this thing developing over many, because it has to be in the background, because if the book was about that change in dwarven society, it would probably feel like you're being hit over the head with it. It would probably feel preachy. You can only do it as a background in a long running thing. Well, not exactly a series, but you know what I mean. And it's why I love, it's why I'm writing a long series, and it's because you get those. There are things you can only do there, and it makes me sad and a little sad because people are always telling indie authors not to do that. It's always like write like a trilogy and then move on. Write if you do a new thing, and I'm like, you're not wrong financially, right? But we lose out on these things that you can only do in a big thing.
Part of the reason I would think to be an indie author is that you could ignore all of that advice and do whatever the fuck you want to do.
I say that all the time, right? No publisher would let me do what I'm doing.
Like publisher would let you put in Brian.
Well, he's an idiot.
No publisher would let you put in Brian as a bagel vendor who gets injected into space. But I think you should
do that. Yeah,
I think you should. Although, if you do that, I want to have a coffee cart right next to his. So he's selling bagels, I'm selling coffee, and both of us get ejected in this.
The coffee market on Wistful is very cutthroat. So we'll have to figure something out.
Cutthroat coffee vendor.
Spent a lot of time talking about coffee on that ship.
Can be a coffee synthesized.
But those kind of things make a world that your fans can love. I mean, this is why Discworld is so loved. Discworld is more than the sum of its parts, because cumulatively it's a world. And the background characters have their own thing going on, and you don't necessarily see them for a couple of books, and then you get a mention that Dibbler has his latest venture obviously failed because he's back to selling sausage in a bun. So it's those kind of things that your fans just love.
And then readers get so annoyed. They're like, oh, well, I want to know what happened to these people. And I'm like, well, wait a few more books. Maybe I'll mention it, but you can't put every character in every book on every page.
Not everybody can be a main character.
Build that character to a point where you can imagine what happened. I don't need any more than Dibbler's latest venture failed, which means he was probably selling hats with sleeves or something. Like, it would be something stupid. It would have gone off like something, and it's just failed because it's stupid, because it's Dibbler.
But Jim Butcher does that really well in his long series, how you have characters that disappear for several books because you don't need them, and then he brings them back when you need them. And that's one thing I've really loved about Dresden.
Yes.
And they've done stuff. He doesn't just bring them back and you get the sense they're frozen in time since that point where they left. Like, they jumped off page 3 books ago, and then they froze, and then they jump back on the page, right?
They were standing in the NPC closet over there, waiting for their next bit.
Right? They come back, and it's like, oh, you've had your 2 years of stuff happening. And we get a brief recap, right? And it's changed you.
That's meant
He's good.
You're interesting to bring back, because you're bringing something new with you.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Yeah, Mitch is right. The Broken Drum is a pub in Discworld, and things happen to it, and now it's a pub called the Mended Drum. And those are the things that just make it.
That's beautiful.
He's very good about having. I mean, I've thought about this a lot in the context of role playing as well. Like, when you're running a role playing game, it's really hard to make the world beyond what the characters are directly experiencing, to make it feel like it's also doing things.
Yeah.
Like everybody else in the world is actually doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to have in between sessions when I was running a regular game, I would sit down for an hour and just write down everything we mentioned in the last session that was in any way in the world and not directly what the characters were doing. And then think, okay, what's happened to that?
Yeah.
How did what the characters do, how did what the characters did influence the pub they went to, or all of the different things in the background, so that it feels like the world is actually active,
Yeah. No, it's that world building aspect, however difficult it's become for my brain for new worlds. Once I have established a world in my brain, to be able to watch an author populate that world and make it feel lived in is one of the joys of reading a series.
Yeah.
It's watching that coffee cart vendor. It's watching that weapons maker. It's watching that person so far on the sidelines, they have no bearing on the plot whatsoever, and knowing that they're evolving off to the side somewhere, because next time you see them, maybe that weapons maker has a contract with the government and they've gone up in the world, and now we're seeing them in posh places, or just there's something really endearing about that as a reader, to know that your author, because you all belong to me, that your author has cared about your world enough to
Your
grow the whole
author.
thing, not just
It creates immersion.
yeah. God, yeah, it's so it's an essential thing, I think, in terms of success for a big world series. If you haven't grown your world, how what,
I think also, especially with something like Discworld, though, like everything in Discworld exists to support two hooks.
Yeah.
One hook is humor, and one hook is Terry Pratchett's anger. Basically, themes. You can call
But
it themes.
he
Well,
very honestly and openly throughout all of his books does the rule of cool.
yeah,
Is it going to be funny if this happens? Yes. So we're going to do that. And
Yeah.
there's no hiding that. There's no attempt to go, we're going to make it logical. He's like, no, I built this with magic. I can just have it happen. And it will just happen. Because he's and the science of Discworld goes into it more clearly, but he's built into Discworld narrativium. So everything wants to be a story. It's literally one of the elements that forms Discworld. And by creating that as part of the world, you have things that look like a Cinderella fairy tale. You have things that look like, the prince that was promised. You get things like Arthur. You get things like Grendel. You get all of these things that are like the stories we know, because it's trying to
because
tell
it's the physics of the world.
to tell
Yeah.
these stories. And it just works because he does it with just enough tongue-in-cheek that it's forgivable. You're like, yeah, okay.
That's one of the things I'm really liking about this, actually. Like she is kind of known for doing interesting things with language. And the way gods work in this world, it's a lot like gods in a lot of fantasy. They essentially get their power from prayers and offerings that people give them. But the way they make things happen in the world is through saying it.
Okay. Speak it into being.
Exactly. But they have to, it's really interesting. They have to be really careful about what they say. Because if they say something is, and it's too difficult, that will probably kill them.
Oh, okay. So it has
because
to be
they don't
actually
have enough power
be-
to make it happen.
Right.
So they have to be really careful and put in conditions. And some of the gods sound kind of like lawyers. They've got like a million clauses in their statements. Or when they're talking to each other, they're always like, well, it could be that. And they'll always preface things with something like that so that they're not making a statement about reality.
Yeah, they're not promising something.
I heard a story, like the God perspective in here. Half of everything he says starts with, I was told a story once.
Yeah.
And then he tells you something.
But how many stories do we have as a culture where you make a deal with some powerful being and there's fine print that you find out later? That's kind of one of the foundational pieces of our storytelling, isn't it? That there's going to be a detail that you didn't take into account.
But usually what I find specifically interesting about this, usually at least the way I've always taken those stories is that the fine print and the details are usually a way of trying to trick the person and get more out of them. In this case, it's the god has to be careful that they don't expend themselves on their promises, basically. Which is really interesting. And then the gods start making all sorts of weird deals with each other to share power, to get larger goals done and stuff like that. It's really,
we know that our genies,
like I said, it didn't grab me that
wishes.
much, but it's a really interesting book. By Crumb. Well, anyone who's played Conan Exiles, the video game, knows that Crom grants his followers nothing.
You have to follow Offler, the crocodile god. If you're particularly lucky, he might let
In
you
the video
some
game.
unmarked bills.
In the video game, you start when you start your character, you have to pick a god that your character is dedicated to, and it's actually kind of funny. You click through the interface, and it shows you like the god symbol and their name, and it has a little description below of what kind of things the god wants you to do and what you get for it. And all it says under Crom is Crom grants his followers nothing, and that's it. Like you can follow Crom if you want,
But you get nothing for it.
You don't get anything for it though.
That's
It's honest.
It does
Yeah.
a wonderful thing.
That's Crom.
Yes. There's one of my favorite moments in Making Money, which is one of the later Discworld books, but also a fantastic starting place for new readers. Making Money, reforming criminal, we won't say reformed, reforming criminal has decided he's going to make a big show of praying to the gods. So he goes to the temple of Offler, the crocodile god, and he takes an offering of sausages because Offler likes sausages. And he's trying to convince this night priest who's not normally on duty that, no, you have to accept my prayer. You know, look, sausages. And he's like, oh, but I have to give the sausages to Offler, the god. And he's like, and how do you do that? And he goes, oh, we burn the offerings to Offler, the crocodile god. And he goes, oh, and you just eat the earthly remains because the spirit of the sausages goes to Offler. And the priest is like, yes, have you got priest training? And he's like, no, I just, I've got a good sense of it. And he goes, this is why the smell of sausages is always better than the taste.
It's the spiritual existence of sausages.
I was just, the first time I read that, I nearly cried laughing. I was like, that is so perfect. It really is. That he's kind of wrapped that whole idea and then gone, that's why it smells better.
City of Lost Chances does deal in a very interesting way with gods. I am still looking forward to House of Open Wounds, and I kind of feel like I need to reread City of Lost Chances because I don't feel like I got it.
I was just thinking the same thing because it's been I have House of Open Wounds been on the shelf forever, and it's one of those like I might need to reread the first one to remember. Yeah,
because it's I mean, I've said it before on the pub. It's a wild book, and at no point did it really grab me. But the whole time I was thinking it was awesome. But I didn't have like that emotional must read more kind of feeling. It was just, it's very all over the place. Like every chapter is a different POV. Every POV has their own shit going on. And there's just like tons and tons of things happening. And the world building is deep and complex. And it was super interesting. And it also, I really felt, okay, Tchaikovsky's writing has definitely leveled up. Or at least he's writing in a totally different style and it works really well, but it never really grabbed me,
I liked how it just unfolded like a 19th century novel with all all the different layers. And of course the portions of it give you Les Miserables vibes for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Aslan
well, Aslan says, I absolutely in all caps shouting, do not need to reread City of Lost Chances.
Okay.
No!
Hey, that's good news.
Just that you understand, Aslan, I wasn't saying I need to reread it so that I can read House of Open Wounds. I meant I need to reread it because I think there's I could still get a lot out of it. I feel like maybe I just wasn't in the right headspace at the time, and maybe I missed a lot.
I think even going in, knowing the structure of the book ahead of time would definitely help, rereading that one.
Yeah.
Just knowing that each chapter, you're going to end one place and you're going to pick up with a different main character in that next chapter. And you're going to have very few characters that recur as kind of the central protagonist of each chapter. I think even knowing that going in can make the reading experience different.
I don't remember I don't know if I've ever read a book where at the end of it, if someone said, who was the main character? I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. What was there a main character?
Malazan.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I mean, other than Malazan. Malazan's just totally different than everything else.
Yeah, that's going to be the exception to pretty much everything, I think.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
from
no,
what
I mean, Malazan definitely. But even Malazan's a bit different because it has like one book will have like 50 characters in it that
Yep.
are covered in some way. But like there are about 5 or 6 or 10 maybe who are kind of the main group, you know. And this was a whole bunch of individuals. City Lost Chances is a whole bunch of individuals whose stories intertwine and overlap in weird ways, but they're very separate and they all feel kind of equal, you know.
Okay.
So it jumps around a lot. It's just it's different. Shut up about Calor, Thornall. Calor could go to hell. Man.
Who's the guy who lives on a roof in a towel and he's got a god as like
Tehol.
He's my Tehol. You can't prove that Tehol is so smart and so good at manipulating events outside, like in a very wide place, that my argument is Tehol is clearly the main character because everything happens because of him. And you may not, there may be no narrative support that anything happens because of him, but you can't prove it didn't because he's so good at like controlling events at a distance.
In 1 or 2 books, yes. I mean, everything happens in Lethras because of Tehol. I
You
can
don't
totally,
know.
I can totally
You don't
sign
know if
that.
what happens in Lethros could be in ways we don't understand, controlling everything else everywhere else. So
I
he's
would
my
argue
argument.
that the main character of Malazan is Krupp
That's fair.
for the same reason you just described, except Krupp.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yasnik. Yeah, but Yasnik is only in like 10% of the book. You know, I mean, it opens with Yasnik, and I love that chapter. The beginning of City Lost Chances is really, really cool. But Yasnik's hardly in the book. Yeah.
Death is hardly in the death books in Discworld. It doesn't mean he's not a major character.
But Death is definitely a major character in everyone's lives.
Exactly.
Tchaikovsky did say it was a series he had most fun writing. Yeah, yeah. Although I think I've also heard him say the same thing about Dogs of War, which is
I think he
so
just
different. Malazan is apparently about cleaning.
Oh, gardens and a guy
Gardens
named
and a guy named Rake. Yeah, no, good point. Good point.
I never put that together.
Malazan starts and ends with Fiddler. True. I mean, Fiddler is certainly one of my favorite characters. No question. Okay, so Yasnik turns up more, I assume, in later books. That's cool. Yeah, Tchaikovsky definitely liked Yasnik. When he was here in Berlin, he did the event. He did a live reading, and it was the opening of City of Lost Chances, which is Yasnik and his god, who is his roommate. Yeah. No, Britton. Sorry, Whiskey Jack is not the main character.
But
He is
I've
very.
heard-
He's awesome though.
He is awesome. Everybody loves Whiskey Jack, except probably Ida, because Ida's wrong about everything about Malazan. But otherwise, everybody loves Whiskey Jack. How about another sprint? Because if I don't get up and feed Fit soon, she is going to eat my legs.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to bail here.
All right, man.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
to see you.
Great to talk to everybody.
Congratulations on
Thank you.
getting your book off to the editor.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Thanks
Very,
very
very
much. Take
cool.
care. Enjoy.
See you, man.
Yeah, I'm
So
going to go
let's-
as well. I got
All right.
Sunday stuff to take care of. So
Okay. Good to see you, Josh.
happy pubbing. And I guess there's none next weekend, right?
Next weekend is out because I'm going to be out of
Okay.
town.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Mwah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, I'll chat with both of you soon.
Yes, you will. See you, man.
See ya.
Okay, we'll go until because we're a bit past the hour. We'll go until 1:45 the hour. Mute yourself, please, and everybody enjoy your read. Hello.
Hello.
How was everybody's reading?
My lack of faith in humanity is once again being underlined.
Ah.
Yeah.
Because of Discovery.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, yep, I see how this would be happening.
Fair enough.
But like our AI discussion earlier, readers of science fiction are, of course, going to be the most worried about the impending collapse of society.
Yeah, well, we've been thinking about it a bit longer than
That's right.
everybody else.
We've gone quite a long way down those thought
Yeah.
experiments, and
Yeah,
most of them doing it very well.
Plenty of science fiction authors that don't have the rosiest picture of the future.
Well, I don't even know that it's of the future. I think it's of humanity. I think the future is a result of who we are as a species.
Yeah, of course.
And we're not lovely. Humans
Not
are.
always, no. There's some of us who are pretty good to people, but many
As
of us are
individuals,
not.
we're amazing.
Yeah.
The minute we get into big groups and we have to have some kind of
Things are not as good.
yeah. The minute there's groupthink, not good.
Also, I had a similar experience. Fiddler for a couple of books. Well, first of all, the first few books he's only in one or two, but the first few books kind of whatever. But like certainly by Bone Hunters, it was kind of impossible not to fall deeply, deeply in love with Fiddler. After the famous chapter in Bone Hunters, if you don't like Fiddler, you don't have a soul. Dania, I think I shocked Dania when I came back on the mic.
I think so. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
The piss is a good one. But
I try. That's why I try and do it kind of smooth and soft. And because I used to come back on and go, "Hey, everybody," and I think a lot of people spit their tea out.
I'm trying to remember who it was, but it was a while ago now. But I can't think who it was. But I was doing sprints with somebody, and whoever still had their mic on blew a bloody air horn. All of us nearly died. Jesus, I'm too old for that. You'll give me a heart attack.
Pico Moon dropping the Malazan in jokes. Yeah. Sorry, Ida and everybody else. I really do try and do it as softly and calmly as possible. But it doesn't always work. So it is getting close to 11 here in the evening. I think I'm gonna.
Sun came out.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it was a bit dark when you started. A few hours ago.
Yeah, the sun wasn't up yet, so I opened my curtains during the first sprint and then got blinded before this one. So.
Nice. Yeah, it's dark here, but
nighttime tends to happen.
It's summer, so I am still. I mean, I've lived in Germany for a long time at approximately this latitude, and I'm still totally shocked by how much the light varies between summer and winter.
Yeah.
Like in winter, it is dark until about 10 in the morning, and it's dark by 5 or 6 in the evening, like completely black dark. And in summer, it's light until 9:30.
Yep.
You know, so
it's wonderful. That's kind of what it is here, as you know, and it's kind of fantastic. But then they do the change of clocks, And you go
Yeah.
from it being light at 7 o'clock at night to suddenly it's getting darker 4:30. And you're like, we only changed the clocks by an hour. How did that happen?
Yeah.
But it just sort of coincides, obviously, with the change in season. And the sun changes quite dramatically once you're far away from the equator. But
We are completely stunned, Thornall. You're the only person who thinks Farseer is any good.
yeah, no,
We
that
are-
warms my heart.
Absolutely surprised.
Because,
Of course, Farseer's good.
Yep, it is brilliant.
Farseer is
It's the
awesome.
foundation for so much. I have a wonderful friend. Trying to think of his username. It'll come to me. But they started with live ships, much against my advice, and I've had quite a good time actually talking to him about his journey through
Yeah.
that, because he enjoyed it very much. And he's like, okay, now I have to read Farseer because I can't go on until I'm like, this is why you should read Farseer. Anyway, they're now reading Farseer, and they're like, this is the most amazing thing ever. I'm like, yeah.
Although in general, I can understand. Well, I would never recommend to anyone to start with live ships, but live ships is a bit more
It's easy as hell.
in the structure, at least.
Yeah.
It is a much more typical fantasy trilogy.
Oh yeah, I mean,
know.
and this is what I was saying to him while he was going, I'm going to start here, is that I totally understand why that is a more desirable read, because on paper, Farseer is either the worst named series ever because you expect this high thrill assassin story,
Yeah.
or it's the most boring series ever because it's this coming of age story with seemingly little driving plot, and it's a hard sell for people who have heard of live ships.
Yeah.
But so I'm loving that he's having such an amazing time with Farseer.
And it's also a very known kind of thing now, and a pretty common and I guess popular kind of thing to have a fantasy series that goes all over the world and has lots and lots of different POVs and that kind of thing. And Farseer is not that, and Live Ships is. But
So
read
once again,
Farseer.
really approachable.
Yeah, definitely read Farseer. It's awesome. I always think of Realm of the Underlings as 3 series.
Okay.
It's 9 Fitz books, 3 Live Ships books, and 4 Rainwild's books.
Okay.
You know, so like you can't and shouldn't read 6 of the books in the whole series if you don't read Farseer.
Yeah.
You know.
Should you read the last trilogy now? Wait for Matt. Well, he's done Rainwild.
I'm ready for it. I'm not ready for it like as in I want to start reading it next week. But I have done my reread of 13 books. So I'm ready for the last 3. And I can certainly keep you informed, Ida, about when that might be. And I'm not thinking of pushing it too far into the future. Like definitely this year, probably in the next couple of months, I'll start it at least. So
you
we'll see.
start to misfits.
I totally miss Fitz.
And
yeah. I mean, I named my cat after her, so after him, named her after him. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting back to Fitz, and especially the Fool also. To be, I was like this close to naming my cat Beloved, but I thought Fitz is
it's an easy one to call.
Well, and it's also more a normalish name to call a cat. Yes, Ida. August, maybe. Maybe even July. I really don't know. I'm reading. I've had a really weird reading year so far. I think in March I read most of one book.
Nice.
Is it?
But that was a chonker. So you know.
Yeah, but I mean, like one book in a month is very, very, very slow for me.
It's okay. It's not a race.
And then in That was March. In May, I read like 6 or 7 books. So I read all of the Rainwilds, and I'm mostly done with this. And I read Bearhead and
Nice.
some other stuff. So I'm kind of on a faster reading roll right at the moment.
Yeah, you've got a while to go, Thano.
Yeah, the dragons part. There's plenty of dragons in the whole series.
The whole thing.
There's
It's
plenty of dragons in the whole series, but you're not going to get a whole lot in the trilogy that you're reading. But there is some dragon stuff.
You will be satisfied.
Yeah, it's awesome whether it's dragon stuff or not. I mean, Hob in general. Like I think Hub's world building is really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing I read Hub for is characters, of course.
Mm.
You know, she just writes characters better than basically anybody.
Yeah,
And
you can just live in somebody's head and you know them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
through them, you know who they know. And
Yeah. The world building, for me anyway, the world building is secondary. There's some very cool world building. I think what she's come up with in Realm of the Elderlings is amazing, world building wise, but the characters are even better.
Definitely.
Anyway, I'm going to call it for the pub for this week. Thank you, Derry, for being the last woman standing, and for joining. Thank you, everybody in the chat. It has been a pleasure as always. Everyone, keep in mind, no pub next weekend. I am out of town Friday to Monday, so I will not be pubbing from out of town. But we should be back to normal pub in 2 weeks. The normal Sunday in 2 weeks. Cool.
Feeling reasonably certain I might run sprints next week.
Yeah, cool. I'm always very happy for somebody to take the time slot when the pub's off, so that everybody has a place to go and hang out and read and sprint and all of that good stuff. I hope everyone has an awesome week. I hope you continue reading awesome books, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everybody.